Well, whenever Google Hangouts wants to do its thing. Okay, there we go. Um, Hang on a second. Bumbadita, happy trails to you until we meet again. Okay, I'm back.
Okie dokie.
I'm sorry that took so long. There's people in the house who don't have any respect for anything or anything that I do. And decide after I've told them 3 times I'm doing the podcast at 1 o'clock that they're going to come down here and make as much noise as they possibly humanly can by vacuuming and doing all kinds of things that they could do, in an hour, but decide to do right now. Actually,
yeah.
I have a theory. Do you want me to share my theory?
Sure, give me your theory.
My uncle thinks this is stupid and actively disrupts what we do intentionally, just to piss me off because he's passive aggressive like that.
Yeah, possibility.
It's almost certain, and he's in a shit mood today. So,
Why?
he had some tests done a couple weeks ago, and he's got to go see the doctor about the results tomorrow, and he's nervous about it.
Oh, that's a good reason to be a jerk to everybody.
Dude, he doesn't need a reason, but it just amps him up.
All right, let's do this, man.
Okay. All right.
Let me sound all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You got your finger on that mute button?
Yes.
Okay.
Trust me.
Well, you hadn't been using it, so.
Well, that's just because it's me and you.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Russian helicarriers are too stubborn not to fly.
Captain America. Crap, I can't read that.
Dude.
Do it again. I'm sorry.
Dude.
I'm getting new glasses Tuesday.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Russian helicarriers are too stubborn not to fly.
Captain America broke my sword.
Gamma radiation, not even once.
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Month Behind podcast.
One more time.
What went wrong?
You said episode.
Did I?
Yes.
Oh. Sorry.
You do need new glasses.
I really do, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I it's only like a foot away from me, and I'm struggling to read it.
All right.
Maybe 18 inches.
3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Russian helicarriers are too stubborn not to fly.
Captain America broke my sword.
Gamma radiation, not even once.
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Month Behind podcast.
Okay. We'll do it a 4th time.
What happened that time?
You didn't say the word months. You said 6 Behind podcast.
I said months.
You didn't.
When did we become the 6 Behind podcast?
I don't know, but that's what you said.
Oh my God. All right, do it again.
All right. Three, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Russian helicarriers are too stubborn not to fly.
Captain America broke my sword.
Gamma radiation, not even once.
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast.
Three, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for week of 1/7/19. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this week, because we need stupid people, we are R. Kelly and Drake. How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. Yeah, R. Kelly finally paying his dues for all the young women that he's done horrible things with, and Drake, his protege.
You know, R. Kelly is like Bill Cosby. I mean, for years,
Yeah.
everybody knew Bill Cosby was doing this stuff and paying these women off. And every now and then one up sue him and they'd go to court and he'd reach some kind of, he'd give her a couple of million and shut him up. And R. Kelly's the same way, man. Everybody's known about this for years. There's videotapes out there. And
There've been
suddenly,
documentaries, not the one that's currently airing, but other documentaries.
Suddenly Lifetime does a documentary and everybody's like, oh my God, we can't play R. Kelly's music anymore. Well, he's been this way for a decade. You've just ignored it.
Oh, it's been longer than that. He was messing around with Aaliyah back in the late 90s, and she was like 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then video surfaced of Drake groping a 17-year-old on stage after he found out she was 17.
I think he stopped groping her when he found out she was 17. Then he just kept talking to
I
her.
saw the video. He didn't.
Okay.
He made some jokes about her being underage and then grabbed her boob again.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great. It was a few years ago. It's been a little while ago. This is not like he did this the other day. It's been a while ago.
Yeah, but in this age of the Me Too movement, if you did anything 50 years ago, it's going to get brought back up.
Well, he also has a weird texting relationship with Millie Bobby Brown. So
he does have that.
Yeah. And like, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. That could just be like something friendly and, it could be totally innocent, or it could be like real creepy and he's like grooming a child.
He's like counting down the days till she turns 18.
Ugh. Anyway, this is the 6 Month Behind podcast where we talk about comic books and not creepy dudes.
Yeah. I'm going to post this article on the website. I've been putting a lot of stuff up on the website, by the way. And I meant to send it to you. And then it's one of those things where I read it and then I couldn't find it again. This dude wrote an article about being a teenager in the 90s and the comic boom. And then he wrote in the last couple of paragraphs was, of course, we learn not to do these things again. And then he wrote everything that the publishers are doing that's leading to another comic boom or bust. And it was like the alternate covers and too many books. And I forget what else it was. There's a
crappy writing. And
I think it was Last Man, Amazing Spider-Man #1 came out. And there's one of those covers that's selling for $1,000.
That's insane.
It is insane. And all these alternate covers I paste, you can click on the link on them, and most of them will show you this, if there's many sales or moving, it'll show you the sales price. Man, these things sell for $300, $400, $500, $600. It's insane, man. It's just insane.
This is exactly what happened in the mid to late 90s with the bust.
Yes. People speculating on comics instead of buying them because they love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might not put Marvel under because they got that movie money these days, but dude, it's bad for the comic book industry.
It's bad for the comic book industry, man.
It's terrible.
And $10 issues. And anyway, I think in the last month I paid $6 for the wedding of Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters, and I paid $8 for something else. I may have paid $10 for something else. I know I paid $10 for Avengers #10.
Wasn't it a Deadpool book or something?
It was something, man.
Yeah.
There's an Uncanny X-Men book coming out.
That's what it was. It was Uncanny #1, wasn't it?
I didn't buy Uncanny #1. But there is an Uncanny book coming out. It's going to be $8 or $10.
Dude, that's insane.
It's just insane. And there's nothing special about it. I mean, it's special because of what's in it, but it's like it's a number 800 or something like that. It's just what's in it that's making it special.
Right. So instead of just doing it for special events or one-off books, this is an important story, so we're going to jump the price up by, $4. Yeah. It's unsustainable. And we've talked about this a ton. But
it's just, but every week I see it and I'm just like, I go in and buy 3 books and, walk out having paid $15 or $20. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, unlike last time, which almost led to the demise of Marvel and hurt DC real bad, both of those companies have been acquired by larger entertainment entities. And so they'll weather the storm just fine. It's the brick and mortar stores who are already hanging on by a thread who are going to go under. And then they literally have no one to sell their comic books to.
Yeah, man. I mean, in the mid-90s, there was like 6 or 8 comic book or stores selling comic books in Birmingham.
Yeah.
I think now there's 2 or 3.
There's a few more than that. Well, actually, no. Excelsior just closed. Which is another symptom of this whole thing. I mean, a comic book store that's been around forever is just closed, but there's a few, probably, let's see, there's Bob, there's Kingdom Comics, there's Sanctum, there's that, what's that place in Leeds? I forget the name of it. They're not Excelsior, but the other one.
Anyway, there's 4.
Yeah, there's 5. There 5 to 5 or 6, but they're all spread out, so they service different parts of town. But they're all tiny little mom and pop places that none of them would survive another comic book bust like we saw in the 90s.
No, and it's coming.
It's coming, and everybody knows it. And the only thing that may save brick and mortar stores is if they have expanded into creator-owned content and some of these other smaller publishers.
Right.
And you got to hope that you're selling enough of that to do anything.
And Jason has done that, and he's big into games and
right. He'll survive. He just may end up moving strictly to games and whittling down his comic book offerings to almost nothing.
Dude, his comic books, if you don't have a pull list, there's not a lot of stuff on that shelf, man.
Yeah, because he can't afford it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get stuck with it.
No. And guys like Bob, Bob's been in the game since the 70s, and he'll just close up and call it a day. But
dude,
Bob,
he already makes all his money online, man.
Right. He'll just pack up his inventory, liquidate what he can, and then do it strictly online from his house.
Yeah.
Because that's what he wants to do anyway.
I don't know why he hasn't done that for already. Anyway,
he's got a bunch of loyal customers that walk into that store every Wednesday, and
I guess and it's a home for his
sports betting.
Thank you. I wasn't gonna. I was trying to think of a nice way to say it.
You and I both have known Bob a long time, and you and I both know he's basically run the sports book out of that place.
Okay, I was trying to find a nice way to say it. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah, he sure is. Which, by the way, I bet he lost a bunch of money on that football game that happened the other night.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Yeah,
because he's a big Alabama fan, and that didn't work out well for him.
Yeah, Alabama got just murdered by Clemson, dude. Did you watch that game? I bet you did.
Of course I did, man.
Yeah,
it was ugly.
Yeah, if audio folks aren't seeing this, but if you see in Pat's office right now, there's Alabama memorabilia hanging all over the walls. So I'm having a little fun at his expense.
But, it's all good, man. It's dude, I don't take football too seriously. I lived through the Shula and Dubose years, man. That taught me not to take football seriously, and the Perkins and Curry and Franchione and Price years.
I wish some of the other Alabama fans would learn that humility, because I try not to be an antagonistic Auburn fan, but on a game like that, occasionally I gotta put a few jabs in. And I thought my buddy Corey's wife was gonna come through the phone and strangle me. I made her mad, and I was like, "Dude, it was just a couple like I didn't even pull out the hardcore material. It was just a couple jabs about your quarterback or whatever, and that terrible fake punt." But she didn't speak to me for a few days.
No, it is what it is, man. We could break down the game, but nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear us talk about the comic books that came out this week.
Yeah. Speaking of, if you want to give your opinion on how badly Clemson beat Alabama, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6 monthsbehind@gmail.com.
Their website is www.6monthsbehind.com. where there is new content up, and there will continue to be new content up.
And before we get into the books this week, we do want to tell you that we do discuss spoilers. So if you have not read all the comic books this week, pause here, go read them, come back. We'll still be here. Also, be aware, we, being 6 months behind, sometimes discuss things that happen in the quote future of the comics, because these are already out on the newsstand and we do read some of those. So if you don't want spoilers of any kind, shape, form, or fashion, this is your chance to exit.
Yeah, you need to exit, because seriously, I mean, there's so many things that are going to happen in Exterminated and then Uncanny that if you read any comic book news at all, I don't know how you don't know. And it's all I can do not talk about it for 6 months. So I don't know how you don't already know these things. So that's why we've warned you, and we don't feel too bad if we do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're the one who saves articles 6 months in advance to put on the website when it becomes relevant to unlimited readers.
That's why I stuck the Exterminated article up there.
Yeah. So starting off, since Infinity Countdown is our big event right now, we have Infinity Countdown Champions #2. When last we left our heroes, they were fighting the Chitauri and Warbringer on Titan, while Thanos watches. The majority of this book is them going through that fight with both Warbringer and the Chitauri. They managed to bring him down, but of course Thanos flexes his power. He literally grabs Riri Williams by the neck and evaporates the Iron Man armor around her, throws her on the ground, and says, "Since you entertained me today, I won't kill you. You're free to leave." That messes Riri up real bad, and she's kind of not in a good space. But luckily, Viv, who seems to have become the emotional and moral center of the team, which is a similar role her father played in the Avengers, is able to kind of get her out of her funk, and they start designing a new armor, which is going to lead into her armor being redesigned. Because, Brian Michael Bendis left, so we have to recreate the whole character.
Sure, and relaunch it with another #1.
Yeah.
That we can do 15 alternate covers of.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at a Nova outpost, they land and are discussing things with this Nova administrator, who snatches Sam's helmet and teleports them to some random planet. Now Sam doesn't have his Nova powers anymore. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that.
There you go.
Meanwhile, if you go to the very last page, you get a preview of Riri's new Iron Man armor. It was a decent issue. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Good. Next, we have Avengers #4. I have, speaking of things, that we have to keep under wraps for 6 months, I've talked about this book for 6 months, so we finally get to it. It opens with the 1 million BC Avengers. I keep wanting to say Loki. It's not. It's Odin. Odin and the Black Panther and the Hulk and the Phoenix and a few others fighting the Celestial. And then we cut to She-Hulk and Thor. Let's pause here a moment on She-Hulk. Jason Aaron is kind of, I think you said a couple of weeks ago that he's changed who she is from that previous Hulk series. He really hasn't. It's just kind of her developing into this persona. It's her knowing both sides of who she is, which is kind of what that last issue did. Mm-hmm. She kind of embraces being the Hulk. So Odin is telling She-Hulk and Odin's son, who are there in Asgard, that this ain't gonna work out well for you. Matter of fact, you're gonna lose. Thor says, "Look, like there's got to be some weapons." Odin leads him to a weapons area that he didn't know about, and plan to talk about it. She-Hulk just busts the door down. We cut to Tony Stark and Doctor Strange, who are going to visit the Eternals because the Eternals were put there by the Celestials. Turns out the Eternals are dead. The Eternals got a pretty cool history. And Jack Kirby, Marvel in the mid-70s, he created the Eternals basically as an alternative to the New Gods he did over in DC. And they're pretty cool.
The same thing.
Yeah, except they're all dead now.
Yeah. Which is a big deal, by the way.
It's a really big deal. It is. It only gets 4 or 5 pages here, but in Marvel lore, this is a really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, the Eternals being dead that's tremendous.
Yeah, then we cut to Black Panther and Miss Marvel, who realize that there's some kind of horde on the way. We cut to Loki and Captain America, and Loki's like, "This is going to end badly for you." And Loki explains he's been pontificating for the last couple of issues, and what he's basically saying is that the human race is a not a manifestation, a disease upon the earth, a germ upon the earth that was never supposed to be there. And
not just the earth, but the universe.
Right. And, the Celestials are coming to eliminate it. Ghost Rider's on his way there. Then we cut back to She-Hulk and Thor, and they're in this kind of frost thing, and they finally get to it, but Thor's passing out because he's cold, and like, well, dude, if you want to be warm, I can warm you up, and she jumps him. There you go.
Him, she kisses him dead on the mouth.
She jumps him.
They don't
it's
do
discussed
the
in later
right
issues. There. It's discussed in later issues when they're sliding off to other rooms, and this is the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah, we didn't see everything that happened in this scene.
No, this is not a one-off between Thor and She-Hulk.
Oh, that's gross. Anyway,
they have finally found someone who can keep up with each other physically. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. Yeah. Anywho, I warned you months ago it was gross. They go back to Odin, and Odin just looks at him and says, "Yeah, you got a weapon, but you're still going to die. So just die good."
I wonder what Jane Foster thinks.
I don't know. I was kind of wondering that when of course, I read it months ago, and again in the last few days, just kind of review it, and I thought, I wonder what old Odin's son thinks of Jane. That's out there getting chemo somewhere.
I don't know.
By the way, it was pointed out, and it has been pointed out, but Avengers number 12 came out this week, and I haven't had time to read it yet. But Jason Aaron kind of did a little bit of a crawl book and this Avengers book. So the same dude that's writing the Jane Foster stuff is writing this stuff.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the comic book. I mean, we're 4 issues in. I'm enjoying this. It's a good Avengers story.
It gets better.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Jason Aaron's one of those guys who can do almost no wrong. I like everything he does, everything he's done at Marvel. I like a lot of his creator-owned stuff too. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yep. And he shops at Pops.
And he does. He's from Alabama. So he's from Jasper. Yep. So rooting for the home team. Anyway, moving to X-Men, we have X-Men Gold 31. This deals with the fallout of the non-wedding issue that we discussed last time, where Kitty left Peter at the altar. But we begin with Rachel Gray waking up in a hotel room, talking to Kurt, because he's already up, but he's not actually in the room. She walks into the other room where she assumes he is, and she runs into Mesmero. Turns out Mesmero is in her mind. He's in her brain. And that's the thing that's been going weird with her for a little while. And he takes this opportunity to take full possession of her. More on that in a moment. Meanwhile, Peter Rasputin is leaving the hotel with the intention of possibly going back to Russia, certainly not going back to the X-Mansion. When Kitty stops him and says, "Hey, we need to talk about this," and he's like, yeah, well, I'm just going to leave, and, we're probably not going to see each other for a little while, and, love you and all, but if we're not going to get married, I ain't sticking around. Bye. Peace out. Then we jump to what is the age? Is this Age of Apocalypse?
No, this is an Extermination preview.
Well, okay, but it's mirrored after the future that the X-Men were trying to prevent at one point in time, where they all get rounded up into camps and exterminated.
It's an alternate reality. Well, it's a future of the X-Men.
Right, but we have seen a similar reality before. Anyway, they're all trying to escape. They're all essentially, this is a future where all the mutants have been rounded up into internment camps and are watched over 24 hours a day by sentinels, and they're all about to be exterminated. So the X-Men come up with an escape plan, but it's a risky one. A bunch of X-Men die in the execution of this plan. A bunch of them get away when Rachel Gray shows up, and of course, in this alternate timeline, she was a mutant. She was used as a hunter of other mutants, and she hunts them down. Turns out, we find out this is all happening in Rachel's head, and she's actually attacking the X-Men in real life. So, yeah,
and you get a preview on the last page for Extermination.
Oh, I missed that. No, you don't.
Very last page.
Oh,
is it not that book?
Nope.
And maybe this astonishing book I'm about to do. I'm looking.
Sorry,
it's in this astonishing book. I'm sorry.
Is it? I missed it there too. Okay.
Okay.
It was an okay comic. I mean, I'm still bitter that, they hyped up a wedding for 12 issues and then didn't have it, but
yeah,
whatever.
So there's a lot going on in Extermination, and I'm by no means going to spoil it for you. But the question is, can you yank 5 people out of a timeline and not have ramifications across all the timelines?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting way to go with that.
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes. Next, we have Astonishing X-Men number 13. And I guess I'll talk about this because a minute or two, because I, have to, but
it was okay.
A couple of issues ago, Havoc was finally had what happened to him in Axis Reverse, and he's a hero again, and he's trying to be a hero, except he screws up, and Tony Stark chews him out. We've got a couple of pages of Miss Sinister. He decides he's going to teach class at the academy, except that doesn't go well for him. And
yeah, because he literally just shows up, walks into a classroom and says, "Hey, I'm your teacher now," and apparently didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, and they're like, "Dude, weren't you a villain like 5 minutes ago?" And he was like, "Yeah, but it's okay." But wait, weren't you a villain like 5 minutes ago? And finally, Kitty's like, "Dude, we need to talk." So then he winds up fighting Bastion, and he goes and gets Beast, and he and Beast fight Bastion and some people, and okay, fine.
Well, no, they get attacked by the Reavers at Harvard, where Hank's teaching.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the last page is a countdown to extermination.
It was a little discombobulated.
It gets worse.
Charles Soule still writing this for the moment?
No.
Okay. I mean, I didn't mean currently. I mean this issue.
No.
Who wrote this then?
He did the first 2 arcs, and this arc done by Ed Brisson.
Ed Brisson's usually really good. Okay, maybe he just didn't know what to do with it. I don't know.
Sure, that's the answer.
Yeah. Meanwhile, if you're a comic book writer of color and want to tell a story, you get asked questions like, "But is it good?" Yeah, but they're going to publish this guy's BS. Anyway, moving on to Hunt for Wolverine, Weapon Lost number 3. If you've been keeping up with these Hunt for Wolverine comics, this is the one that involves Daredevil, Misty Knight, and Frank McGee. I can almost never remember his name. The Inhuman detective dude. And they're looking for Wolverine. And Cypher, who has a internet addiction. And if you remember at the end of last issue, they go to this Canadian forest looking for Wolverine. Wolverine finds them instead and stabs Cypher to death. Well, good news is Cypher's not dead. He just needs some serious medical attention. They take him back to the ship, get him the medical attention. When Daredevil and Misty and Frank get attacked by Wolverine. Except it's not Wolverine. It's a cybernetic clone of Wolverine that was created by the Reavers, who's named Albert.
And I'm supposed to remember this guy, but I don't. But we'll discuss that another time.
Yeah, I don't remember him either, but they do a good job of telling you who he is. I just think the name Albert for a vicious cybernetic Wolverine clone is a terrible name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who's been killing all these people. So,
as a free plug, unasked for, we're going to discuss the Cuckoos and what's next that we're going to do that'll be out in the next week or two. And we'll discuss how these characters just kind of appear in comics. It's kind of one day they're not, and one day they're there. And you're like, what happened?
The X-Men have always done things like that. They've always just like, hey, here's some new characters. I mean, that's kind of how Storm and Wolverine and Colossus and Nightcrawler and a bunch of others showed up to begin with.
Sure.
Daredevil fights off Albert in the woods. They escape. Frank and Misty find mutual understanding in each other's mouths. And then they follow another lead to Chicago. There's a bomb. Everything explodes. We'll find out what happens next time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Next, we have Weapon X number 20, where I get to explain to you why SHIELD helicarriers are so ugly. So this opens with the commander of the said helicarrier there on the deck, and he's looking for Omega Red. Turns out Omega Red and his team are flying straight at him. And Sabretooth asked the question, hence the intro. Get that up where I can see it. How the hell does that freaking thing even stay in the air? And Omega Red responds, Sickle Mother Carrier is Russian, Comrade Creed. It stays in air because it is too stubborn to fall. And you look at it and the thing's it's just butt ugly. I mean, it's obviously a helicarrier, but it's a bad helicarrier. It looks like a helicarrier that was made in a scrapyard somewhere.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like all Russian technology, it was just rigged together by scraps.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then Warpath goes and attacks the people on the helicarrier. And oh, by the way, Ursula the bear is there.
Ursa.
Or was a really nice person back in the Black Widow series and in Strange Tales, those 4 or 5 issues in Strange Tales, and here he's this man-devouring beast.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. So, yeah, then, they attack the Russian. Omega Red kills his brother, who's commander of the helicarrier. He's still got his pet tiger with him. The whole thing is streamed live online so that the X-Force team can get more money. And there you go.
Okay. This is a series that I feel like is
off the rail.
It's not off the rails yet, but it's Fonzie's on the motorcycle getting ready to go over the ramp.
There you
revving the engine.
Yes.
Yeah. For those who don't understand that reference, watch Happy Days. Duh. Anyway, so in the Spider-Man comics this week, we have Scarlet Spider number 21, where Ben Reilly's fighting Sauron for some reason. Not Sauron from The Lord of the Rings, but Sauron, the human / pterodactyl man from what's that place up there at the top? That's the Savage Land.
Down at the bottom, but okay, sure.
No, it's well, it might be. I don't remember.
No, you're right. Antarctica.
Yeah, it's in Antarctica, so it is on the south, or it is on the South Pole. You're right. Who is in Las Vegas for some reason doing lab work? That's going on. The other clone, Kane, saves a little boy from a mindless one that's tearing up Las Vegas or something. Also, there's on page 12, there's a random like letters page, or like it's called the Devs Digest, and it's a bunch of art and stuff from like a Cloak and Dagger series. Like, why is that stuck in the middle of this comic book?
They've done this 2 or 3 times where the letter page isn't at the end; it's in the middle of the comic somewhere.
Yeah.
I noticed it in a few other books. I don't understand what they're doing.
I don't know if that's
sure.
like an error or if that's intentional. I'd have to grab
be intentional.
I'd have to grab a physical copy of the comic and see if it's there. Because that's real weird. Anyways, I'm yawning because this book sucks and it bores the crap out of me. Anyway, Kane's got a tank or something. I don't know. I'd rather stick my hand in a blender than read this comic book.
You could have read Spider-Man Deadpool number 35.
One of the down issues this week.
Dude, this train wreck continues to get worse because it opens with Master Matrix talking to Peter's parents, and then we cut to Peter Parker and Bobby Marcy chit-chatting in her apartment, and old man Deadpool gets out of the shower and drops his towel, and it's all downhill from there. They're figuring out how to go after these people when, just because we need it, the young Deadpool and the old man Spider-Man show up from the future to help young Spider-Man and old man Deadpool defeat the Master Matrix. So you now have 2 Spider-Man and 2 Deadpool, one young of each, one old of each. And if that, sounds confusing, well, good luck it is. Deadpool spends the rest of the issue trying to get out of his older counterpart what Peter's secret identity is. Spider-Man's convinced he's real by knowing his middle school locker number. They catch up with the Master Matrix over there at his parents' graves, and I don't know, man. It's almost done. We can only hope.
See, this is one of those series that you'll have an issue like this where it just sucks, and then it'll have a really good issue, and then it'll suck, and then it'll have a couple good issues, and then it'll be really bad, and then I don't know what's going on with this comic book, but it's selling, and they're up to issue 35 or 40 now. So
I've lost track of when it was good and bad a long time ago. So
yeah. Moving to our general 616 Marvel Universe stuff, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp number 3, which I couldn't read because the Marvel app wouldn't let me.
I don't think you missed a lot.
No, probably not.
Next, we have Cosmic Ghost Rider number 1. This was actually pretty cool. Panel by panel, it kind of explains who Frank Castle is. Soldier, Dead Family, War on Terror, Death, Hell, Spirit of Vengeance, Madness, Devourer, Cosmic Power, Thanos, Death, and Death Again, which leads him into Valhalla. And Odin felt that Frank Castle, because of everything he's done over the years, was worthy of being in Valhalla. And he's in one of the bars there in Valhalla, and some minor god ticks him off, and Frank figures out he can't kill anybody in Valhalla, but he can bite their nose off, and, they'll have to live without their nose forever. So, that worked for him. Then Odin comes to him and like, dude, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? And it's some pretty good dialogue because Frank's like, I figured eventually I would die and be with my family. Instead, I died and I'm here. And I don't feel like I deserve a reward. I wanted to keep killing people until I died. So Odin's like, dude, okay, I'm Odin. You want to go kill some more people? Kill some more people. So he gives him his cosmic powers and his cosmic motorcycle back, and then Odin says, hey, where do you want to go? And Frank's like, well, I want to go where everyone should have gone logically who's had a time gem for the last 20 years. He wants to go kill Thanos when he's a baby. Except Thanos jumps out of the crib and attacks him. I mean, he's like, 1.5 feet tall, maybe a foot tall. And dude, he's fighting Frank. It's pretty funny. And then Frank does that whole, Ghost Rider stare, and turns out the kid's innocent. So Frank's like, well, crap, what am I going to do now? All right, I'll take you with me. So he gives the kid a right cross, knocks him out, and straps him on a motorcycle with him, and off they go to have adventures.
Yeah, there you go.
It was pretty entertaining.
It was great. Who's writing this? I think it's Donny Cates, isn't it?
I just closed it, man. I think it is, yes.
I'm almost certain it is because he's the one that created this Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Yes, it is.
The idea of Frank Castle fighting till the bitter end, going to hell, bargaining with Mephisto to take on the spirit of vengeance and return to, murder people some more, only to become Galactus's herald and gain the power cosmic, and then just murder people across the galaxy for eons is just amazing. Greatest idea in the history of Marvel Comics.
Yes.
Yeah, and the art in this is really good too. I dig the art hardcore.
Good art. Really good color.
Yeah, I think it's Matt Wilson doing the color. It looks like Matt Wilson's work. Anyway.
Next up, we have Captain America #1.
So, I've been interested in this for a while. I was really impressed with Mark Waid's run on the series, his very short stint, where he basically recentered Captain America as he should have been after Secret Wars. No, Secret Empire. One of them Wars and Empires. They all run together. But Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing this, so I've gotten really interested in it, and the story starts in Russia with a group of Hydra agents being ambushed by another group of people who are not Hydra agents, but something more. And I think a lot of this is going to have to do with the conflict that Steve Rogers now has within himself, knowing that he or someone like him was capable of doing the things he did during Secret Empire, and what that did to the country. It's going to deal with a lot of fallout from that. And Steve's narrating through this whole thing. He's on a mission to take out some of these. Oh, who are these guys? Nuke. It's a bunch of nukes.
Yeah.
And it's appropriate that that's the enemy he's fighting here, because one of the points he makes is that, hang on, let me see if I can get to the page. What words can explain how our government allowed this? How the killers bear the flag of that government, the same flag as me. If you don't know who Nuke is, or the nukes, because there's multiple of them now, they're essentially Captain America super soldiers gone wrong.
Yes.
They become crazed killers, but
Right.
they wear a flag motif across their face, and they're being, they're committing acts of terror here, and it looks like they've taken out a helicarrier. And they're put down by Captain America, who also bears the flag. So it's this kind of theme of infighting of, this country represents two factions that are fighting again amongst one another. And he's pontificating about how the country doesn't trust him anymore, and that maybe even Sharon doesn't trust him. But one of the most interesting parts is here at the end. We're back in Russia again, in a part of Russia that was liberated by anti-Hydra partisans, where we see the original lady who ambushed these Hydra agents in Russia publicly execute a Hydra agent. Of course, anytime you kill a Hydra agent, what do they say? Cut off one head, two more will emerge. And as he says this, the lady says, "And I'll devour two." And she doesn't just execute him, she sucks the life force out of him until he's a skeleton. So the only thing I can figure here is that Hydra is being absorbed and co-opted and adapted into an even more evil entity. So yeah, it was a really interesting issue. Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing this, so it's going to ask hard-hitting philosophical questions. If you don't like that in your comic books, you might as well drop this from your pull list and stop reading it, because that's what it's going to do. And I can tell you, I've read ahead a few issues, and it's really good.
Cool. Next, we have Deadpool #2. Now, when issue 1 came out, we discussed our dislike of what Scotty Young did with Rocket Raccoon and Groot. However, in this Deadpool series, he's really nailing it, and it's really good. It opens with the champions fighting the Juggernaut when some giant outer space Galactus type being shows up, and apparently Deadpool's the only one who can save the day. So the Avengers go to Deadpool. It starts with Captain America, and then Captain America and Deadpool have a chase and a fight. There's there's a ton of funny lines here. I mean, I don't even have time to recap them all. What's kind of humorous is during the fight, Deadpool's intestines get blown out, his arm gets cut off.
Dude,
Thor completely electrocutes him at one point. He duct tapes his arm back on.
He gets kicked in the nuts by She-Hulk.
Yes.
That was I laughed out loud at that.
I mean, dude, they just stomp him. He gets hit in the head with Thor's hammer. So finally they're like, okay, we want to talk. He's like, all right, I guess I can pencil you in now. And they start explaining to him, and apparently he has the weapon that can stop this monster that showed up in the first couple of pages. And he's like, oh, okay, you want me to kill it? No. All right. And they go back and forth, and he's insisting it's a wink, wink, nod thing. They wanted to kill it, and they're like, no, we absolutely in no way want you to engage, or are we sanctioning you to kill this monster? Okay, I get it. You want me to kill it, right? No. It just goes on and on and on. It's hilarious, man. Dude, this thing is great.
It really is. It's really good. I don't know what improved about Scotty Young's writing, or if maybe he just has a better grasp on Deadpool, but
I think he knows what he's doing with Deadpool, and he was trying to do something artsy and creative with Groot and Rocket Raccoon, and it just didn't work.
Well, I think also he was trying to make it so zany that it just lost all cohesion.
Right.
Anyway, Rocket and Groot was awful. This is good. This is very good.
Yes, it's very good.
I was a little worried when they announced that Scotty Young was taking this over after Jerry Dugan had such a great run on it. I'm no longer worried about that.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
No.
Then we have a book that I've been looking forward to for some time. Death of Inhumans, #1. So the first couple pages give you a little backstory on how the Inhumans came to be, Kree experiments on ancient humans, yada yada, hooray. But now something's killing Inhumans. And it's not just killing them, it's using the dead Inhumans to send a message to Black Bolt. The message is join or die. And Black Bolt is trying to figure out what all this means. So he calls a council of all the tribes of the Inhumans. And when Black Bolt and the royal family get there, all the other tribes and the leaders of the tribes have been murdered. In fact, there's a bomb and they try to kill the royal family right here. And the only one who, one of them gets killed, I forget, Lockjaw. The fishy one. Yeah, he gets blown up. The weird thing is that we see the being who's killing all these Inhumans, and he looks like an evil version of Black Bolt. And that can't be a coincidence. So we see him killing Flagman. He's gone to New Attilan. Him and Maximus get into it, and they're fighting. He might have almost killed Medusa, and yeah, he and Black Bolt are going to throw down, except it looks like maybe 2 other Inhumans go down here at the end of the last page. Either way, I think that's actually what they're going to accomplish in this comic book, is what it actually says, which is the death of the Inhumans. And man, I couldn't be more excited to watch all of them die horrible, gruesome deaths.
I think that's the plan. Yes.
Yeah. By the way, if
setting out the Inhumans,
if you've not listened to this podcast for long, and I didn't make it clear with that issue, I hate the Inhumans.
Yeah,
I hate them.
Go
I
back
think
and
they're
read
terrible.
the IVX stuff, and you'll see how much he hates the Inhumans.
Yeah, I hate the Inhumans. I wish the X-Men had exterminated them utterly from the
And
galaxy.
this was
I
before
cannot
the
stand them.
Inhumans TV show came out.
Oh, dude, the Inhumans TV show just made it worse.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show,
Yeah.
but I lost some interest in it when they started doing the Inhuman stuff.
Dude, that was like the second season.
Second or third, and like I hung on because there wasn't enough of it for me to like hate it too much, but yeah, man, it was bad.
Dude, you and I texted about it earlier in the weeks. They just got renewed for season 7.
Yeah.
Not 6, which is coming out in a month or so.
Yeah.
But season 7, which will be in 2020.
Yeah, and I thought this would be the last season because they're doing like an abbreviated season. But
13
I think
episodes.
Yeah, but I think it has to do with with what's going on in Avengers.
Yeah.
I think the Avengers Part 2 is going to shake the universe up enough that they're going to do a short season, and then the show's going to kind of get shuffled and have to do and deal with other things.
Sure. Okie dokie. Next up, we have Doctor Strange number 3. First off, he looks a lot like Tony Stark in this book, but that's beside the point.
Well, they've always looked similar.
But now he looks
dark-headed
exactly like
men with goatees.
Tony Stark wearing a suit of armor on page 3, using the beam in the middle of his chest to do stuff.
Well, this is what? Who's writing this? This is Mark Waid.
Yes.
Understand, in the very first issue, Doctor Strange goes to Tony Stark, Iron Man, and,
right,
harnesses technology in order to regain his abilities over magic. So there's a theme of like giving Doctor Strange the Iron Man treatment here, much in the way we've seen with them giving some future version of Tony Stark the Doctor Strange treatment.
Right. I don't blame Mark Waid. I blame Jesus C.S. for this. I think he's the one. Yeah. Okay. Next. Then anyway, he and Chicky are running around the galaxy collecting stuff. Finally, she says they're going to a Skrull world, and Tony gets all freaked out, and they get there, and the Super Skrull is their time gem, except he's too stupid to know how to use it. So they get in a fight, and this is her that he'll give her the time gem if she'll help him. She helps him. He gets the time gem, figures out how to use it, stomps the Super Skrull, then wipes her mind so she doesn't remember the deal they made, doesn't remember that he has the time gem. And he feels bad doing it.
Yeah. Thought the Skrull world was really cool.
It was pretty cool.
The concept that, they're not just shapeshifters, but what does that mean when they can live freely on their own world?
Right.
They don't take bipedal human type forms because they want to. They could literally be anything they want. So,
sure. There were cows in Fantastic Four #2.
Yeah. It was good. I enjoyed this. I'm enjoying Mark Waid's run on this comic. I like anything Mark Waid writes. Immortal Hulk #2. Al Ewing's writing this, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm not a Hulk guy at all. Hulk bores me, but I enjoyed the Amadeus Hulk stuff that we were reading for a while. And now that Bruce Banner's back, I was a little bummed because I was like, I was enjoying Amadeus being the Hulk for a while. Nah, man, this is good. Not only does this return him to his Bruce Banner on the run, on, refugee status roots that the Hulk is always been, but it does it with a suspense, soft horror edge to it that really makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and it's good. So
very good.
First of all, the cover on this is great. Second, the interior art is really good. So Bruce Banner's doing what he does. He's taking a bus to some small town. And while he's in this small town, he sees a headline on a local paper about mysterious deaths being nothing to worry about in this small town. And that catches his attention. So he goes to the local watering hole and starts asking questions. Turns out some star kid quarterback dude died of radiation treatment or something, had some sort of disease. His dad was a doctor or something. And no, he dropped dead of an aneurysm, was the thing. So Bruce Banner begins to investigate. He visits the kid's grave, only to realize the kid's grave is emitting horrible levels of gamma radiation, enough that a visit or two would poison you to death. He calls it into the EPA, and then he goes hunting. He tracks this gamma radiation to a cave in the middle of a mountain, where he finds a man who's been horribly irradiated, along with a bunch of dead bodies. And the Hulk comes out, and the Hulk tells him the Hulk basically explains the whole story to him himself. This man was a cancer doctor who did radiation treatment. He watched his wife die of cancer. It had a deep effect on him. So he basically started doing the Hulk experiments and doing them on himself in hopes of curing cancer or somehow becoming an improved version of the Hulk. He begins testing it on himself, having really good results. So when his son is diagnosed, he gives the treatment to his son, which immediately kills him. And it's not till a few weeks later that he realizes he's starting to see changes in himself either. And the Hulk explains to him, yeah, you didn't see the changes immediately because you had been exposed to small doses of it and you developed some sort of immunity. But when you started injecting yourself, you didn't see the symptoms right away, but they eventually manifested. And now you put the kid's body in a grave that people are visiting, and it's horribly irradiated. So the people are dying because they're going to visit the kid's grave and getting sick from radiation poisoning and dying. So the scene is interspersed with the EPA showing up and digging up the kid's body, who looks like he may still be alive. And also a scene of the Hulk ripping the guy's arms and legs off and leaving him to die in this cave. It's dark.
It is, yes, and it gets worse.
Yeah, it's real dark, and I'm enjoying it. It's this dark edge to this comic that I really enjoyed, and yeah, not for children. Not that there's anything particularly graphic or violent or horrible language, but man, the themes in this are just. This is the sort of thing that if I had picked this up off a comic book rack as a kid, this would have stuck with me. Kind of like when Azrael was Batman for a while and he was torturing people to death in the Batcave. That stuck with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to Star Wars, we have Star Wars number 50. Big issue. 2 stories here. The first is called Hope Dies. That's fun. So the rebellion is celebrating a monumentous victory. They've added the Mon Calamari to the rebel fleet. They've been getting ore and resources from the Shotoran Empire, making it possible to outfit a huge armada for their rebellion. And they're all docked at this starbase where they're all going to operate out of. And, it's a big party and there's going to be speeches and all this kind of stuff. And just before the speeches are done, Leia's talking to the Empress of the Shotoran Empire, who, if you haven't been reading this, is acting as a double agent. She's working for the Empire, but also acting as a double agent on behalf of the rebellion and feeding them information from inside the Empire. What we learned in the previous issue was that she's a double agent, where she's been instructed by Darth Vader to feed this information to the rebellion so that they can gain an upper hand and that he can destroy them when the time is right. And guess what time it is? They're all getting ready to launch the fleet. Leia's giving a nice speech when she realizes that the Empress has disappeared. And it's only then does she realize it's a trap. The Empire shows up in force with a bunch of Star Destroyers. Darth Vader's aboard. None of their stuff works. None of the fighters can launch. None of their hyperdrive engines work. Their shields are down and not responding. None of their armaments are responding or working because they've used the resources and technology of the Shotoran Empire, which have been compromised by the Empire. Yeah, and this is where Darth Vader does what he does best by destroying ships, just killing people left, right, and center. So that's where we leave off for this story, where Darth Vader's there dismantling the rebellion ship by ship. We pause for a moment for a cover gallery where we get to see all the covers for all the Star Wars issues that have come out since number 1. The second story here is called Shotoran Lives, which is we see Darth Vader on Mustafar in his castle. More on that later in Darth Vader. Discussing with some of his some of the higher officers of the Empire how to crush this rebellion. That's when he goes to this Empress of the Shotoran Empire and says, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to be a double agent and feed them information so that we can get inside and destroy the rebellion from the inside out." It's a shorter story. Really good issue. Fantastic issue. If you didn't read it, you should go back and read it. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you it's my book of the week. It would have been Captain America. It would have been Immortal Hulk, but man, this took the cake.
Now I went for Cosmic Ghost Rider number 1.
That was a good one too.
I really enjoyed that.
Before we finish our Star Wars books, we did have the last issue of the Last Jedi adaptation, worth reading if you enjoyed that movie. If you didn't enjoy the movie, you should read it because they fixed a few of the issues.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my favorite comic book. Yours was Cosmic Ghost Rider, also a strong contender. Yeah, some there were no bad comic books this week.
No, there wasn't, and that was a pleasant change.
There were some meh comic books this week. Scarlet Spider, Spider-Man, Deadpool, Weapon X, meh. And then we have Avengers, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Captain America, Deadpool, Immortal Hulk, Star Wars. All of those were the highlights of the week for sure. Those were the best comics this week.
Absolutely.
In the dump, we had a Gambit solo series from 20 years ago, 1999.
I'm excited to go read that.
Me too. Not really.
No.
Anyway. Well, that's going to cover all of our comic books for the week. We hope you have enjoyed our insane ramblings. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can check out the website at www.6monthsbehind.com.
And is tradition, Pat, leave us with some wisdom from your wise mind.
Be who you are, unless you're a serial killer.
Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Be true to yourself. Be who you are, but don't kill people.
Yep.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Peace.
All right. I don't know if I got 2 in me, but I definitely got 1 in me. So let's knock out the cuckoos.
You don't want to do Shadowland?
No, I want to do the cuckoos. It's fresher in my mind.
Okay. All right. Let's do it and get it done because I'm out of
We're
sleep.
both fading. Yes.
Yeah. I've been up for almost 24 hours now. Okay. You ready?
Give me just a moment. Kind of, get the comics going in another direction. 2004, 2007. Let me find that. Nope. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Are there any comics I should be looking at?
It's Grant Morrison's run, man.
Oh, okay. I'm familiar with it.
New X-Men.
I'm just gonna close the app then and plug up my iPad. All right. Ready in 3, 2, 1.
Hello again. This is the What's Next podcast. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
We're the guys from the 6 Month Behind podcast to bring you other comics to read and talk about when you're, came out that week from Marvel. How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. How are you?
I'm all right. So a little bit of inside baseball before we get too far into this. We read a lot of books every week, right? We both read a lot, period.
We read all the new stuff that comes out every week in Marvel Unlimited. That doesn't include what we affectionately call the dump, which is them adding a bunch of the old stuff. But we read all of the newly published comic books, which week to week is roughly on average 20 comic books, which is a lot.
You and I also are both big news hounds, so we read a lot of news. You and I are always reading books. I'm buying comics off the newsstand. We read a lot of stuff.
Right. And I mean, I feel the need, because we read so many comic books, I feel the need to spend time reading, more concrete things than comic books. I mean, I just
nonfiction.
Nonfiction, or at the very least, something a little more substantial than, mass superheroes punching each other in the face.
Sure. So if you look in the archives, whether on wherever you're streaming your podcast from, or you can go to our website, look at what's next, and there's a link there. You will find where we reviewed several months ago, maybe over a year ago now, Grant Morrison's X-Men run.
Oh, and dude, that was like one of the first episodes we did.
Yeah, so it may have been a couple of years ago now.
Yeah, we're coming up on 3 years.
So, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't. A lot of times when we're doing something like that, okay, you were reviewing it, so I just kind of glanced at it. I reacquainted myself with who Grant Morrison was, kind of looked at the books and said, okay, all right, I got it. You're going to talk about it. I'm going to sit here and ask you a couple questions. Bada bing, bada boom. We got a podcast. There you go. So I didn't really read these books. That's the first thing. Then I'm watching Gifted, the Marvel TV show that's on the CW right now. A lot of people are taking a dump on it this year. I'm really enjoying it. And it's got Cuckoos there. Okay. And the Cuckoos in storyline are Emma Frost daughters. Okay. There were originally 5, then one died, then the other died. Now there's 3. And I was watching it, and they're really, I forget the actress name who plays the Cuckoos, but she's really good with it, and she's a really good actress, and they really do a good way of a lot of times when you try and take a superhero and bring it to TV, you don't the powers or the abilities don't translate well.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing a very good job of translating what the Cuckoos are and do onto the Gifted. It's probably my favorite part of the series this year. You know, is seeing the Stepford Cuckoos there. So I kept thinking, where did they come from?
Yeah. And maybe explain what their power is exactly.
They are the 5-in-1, for lack of a better term. They all have Emma Frost psychic abilities, but they essentially share a hive mind. Mm-hmm. Now, that's how Grant Morrison created them. In the last couple of years, they've all kind of branched out and because they're getting older, so they're going their own way. But when you see them as Grant Morrison originally wrote them, and you see them in the Gifted, they have this hive mind where they all think together and act together, and they all basically do the same thing. But even the Gifted is kind of getting away from that a little bit. So, kind of going to some individuality. Anywho, so I thought who's come from, what's their origin, that sort of thing. And I'm thinking because I just, I don't remember reading it. I don't. And so, okay, so I get to reading about it, and it says, Grant Morrison did this, and then this is where their origin's told. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So Grant Morrison started his run. Let me get back here. I gotta get back to where I was. Sorry, apologize. Grant Morrison started his run on the New X-Men in number 114. And we talk about this in that podcast, but and I essentially read this whole run, all 40, 50 issues, whatever it is, over the last few days. There are people who take over a character or a series and don't really make any changes. They just kind of maintain the status quo. Dude, Grant Morrison changed everything. I mean, he broke up Scott and Jean's marriage. He killed Jean Grey. He started I think before about where the villainous Cyclops came from before he died. Dude, Grant Morrison right here in 2001. Yeah, it was Grant Morrison 2001. He created a boatload of characters. I could go on for a while. Go read that podcast. So in New X-Men number 118, page 9.
And then let me know how you managed to read a podcast.
When did I read a podcast?
You said go read that podcast.
Whatever. Okay. There's a couple of words there. You can read it if you want to. Anyway, 118, page 9. Suddenly Emma Frost has 5 teenage daughters. There's no explanation. There's no backstory. There's no nothing. It's just suddenly she's got 5 daughters. And I know I was buying this off the newsstand at the time, from Bob's at the time. And I remember thinking, when did Emma Frost get 5 daughters? But it didn't really.
Does that ever really call them her daughters?
We're coming to this.
Okay.
We're coming to it. Right here, they are her daughters. Okay. They are, yes, her daughters. And let me think of how to present this. This is intentional storytelling by Grant Morrison. All right. Because this is before the House of M. So it's before the Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, and there were millions of mutants on the earth. So there's all these new mutants showing up at the X-Mansion all the time. So to see 5 new mutants is nothing unusual. But the thing is, everyone accepts these as Emma's daughters. And as you read the series, because they're only here for a couple of pages, and they kind of go away, and then a couple of issues later, they go, and they make a cameo, and it's not like there's big splashes. They're just kind of there, and then they're not. And nobody questions, where did Emma's daughters come from? Well, turns out there's a reason, because everybody's been brainwashed to forget they're there. Okay, so you rock along a few issues. Then you have Quentin Quire leading the rebellion against the X-Men. He's on the drug kick, and one of the girls dies. I forget which one of the Cuckoo dies, but she does. I want to say it's in, I don't know. It's in one of the issues. Go to Wikipedia. Better yet, just go to our website. I'll have it there shortly. One of the girls dies trying to be a superhero. And Emma's really unhappy about it because, one of her daughters has died, and she is angry at the world, angry at Jean Grey for inspiring her to be a hero, angry at everyone. And I can tell you, this is, shoot. Anyway, so you rock along, and this is the whole Zorn thing going on too, because you got Magneto impersonating Zorn, using nanobots to heal people. One of these days, we're going to do a story, and we're going to discuss how we went from a fake Zorn, which was Magneto, to a real Zorn. I don't know how we got there.
Dude, that's a whole nother thing.
We're going to get there one of these days because I don't understand how it happened at all. I just don't. So
I don't think anybody does, really.
So there's one at that point. Okay, we lose one Cuckoo, and now there's 4. And then when Magneto finally reveals himself to be Zorn, you realize this girl has been helping him, and I want to say it's Sophie.
That sounds right.
Has been helping Magneto along the way, and Magneto goes crazy because he's taking the drug Kick, which amplifies your mutant powers. So he's taking Kick and has made it, that much worse. And then she winds up dying. That leaves 3 Cuckoos, and they're not happy about any of this. So he ends his run long about 2004. In 2006, Greg Pak creates X-Men Phoenix War Song.
Oh gosh, I remember this.
Well, see, and I don't remember it because I don't think I read it off the newsstand. Dude, open it for me. Anyway, he creates Phoenix War Song. And at that point, the Cuckoos are kind of having a crisis, and Emma starts digging around in their head, and that's when everyone remembers that. Well, let me rephrase that. Emma corrects everyone's mind so that they remembers that the Cuckoos just showed up one day. And what you find out is they were made in the world, kind of like Phantom X was.
Mm-hmm.
And they go there, and there's not 5. They're actually clones of Emma. They're not her daughters. They're clones. Everybody was brainwashed to think they're her daughters. They're really her clones. And there's not 5 of them. There's like 1,000 of them. And during the chaos there in X-Men Phoenix War Song 1 through 5, they're all destroyed, and the 3 Cuckoos are the only ones who are left. And I just thought, that was just. So your books here are the new X-Men series by Grant Morrison, and then this Phoenix War Song series. And it was just fascinating to see how it happened, because Greg Pak wound up writing this Phoenix War Song, and I don't know if he drew it or not. It's amazing art inside this book. It's not the best story in the world because it kind of gets, a little weird.
Yeah, it's real convoluted and messy. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's Grant Morrison when he's on LSD.
It is. And I think Greg Pak, what they did was they tasked Greg Pak with going back and straightening this mess out for Grant Morrison. So Greg Pak wrote it, and he's basically trying to clean up Grant Morrison's mess here. All of a sudden they got 5 daughters.
Yeah.
But the art was done by Top Cow, which is one of the image companies. And it's really good, man. It's a really good series. And the Cuckoos are they had the Phoenix Force at one point. Dude, it's just, this is a great story. And it, I guess maybe I read this when it was on the newsstands in 2007.
You did, because I helped you organize your comic books, and they were all in there.
But I didn't remember it. But that's from, dude, how many years have I been reading comics?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we started at the top of this podcast talking about, how many books we read, and I just forget some of the stories, man.
Right. I mean, if you average 20 comic books a week for you, what it's
40 years?
40 years. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of comic books.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lot of comics. I really enjoyed this. And I guess it's okay. You didn't enjoy it then because you don't really understand who the Cuckoos were, but now seeing who the Cuckoos have evolved to in the Marvel universe, it was fun going back and reading it.
Yeah, you go back and read it and you understand them a little better.
Yeah, you understand what's happening. You understand what Grant Morrison is doing. You understand in 118, New X-Men 118, and they just appear that's not supposed to happen. It's not just them. Okay, it's 5 New Mutants that showed up. Everybody's been brainwashed, so they don't remember it. And so you go back and read it with foresight, foreknowledge, and it makes more sense to you. And it was pretty cool, man. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Grant Morrison's run because I essentially read the whole run. And dude, from what he did to Quentin Quire, to the Cuckoos, to the whole Zorn Magneto thing, the killing of Jean Grey. I'm not a fan of Frank Quitely's art, but other than that, it was a great run, man. It was a classic run.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that it's my favorite run of the X-Men. There's a reason that run of the X-Men, even though I'm familiar with the X-Men from before then, is when I think classic X-Men, that's what I think of, because it was such the new X-Men run by Grant Morrison created the modern X-Men.
Yeah, I mean, those 40, 45 issues, whatever they are, maybe not that many, he created a boatload of characters. He created storylines that they're still working off of today. He did a lot of stuff, man. He did a lot of stuff in about 40 issues.
Yeah, he took the X-Men and brought them into the new millennium with that run. And it's from the costume redesigns to all the new characters, to all the stories, to the retooling of characters that already existed. There's a reason when someone says, "Hey, I want to read X-Men comics, where should I start?" I point them to that.
Yeah, point him to that, man, because it's great.
And also, Frank Quitely's art is amazing. You're insane.
He does faces poorly, man.
It's a style that you just don't care for, and
I really don't. I don't care. I mean, some of his phrasing and his backgrounds are good. It's just his faces are just a jumbled mess, man. I mean, everybody looks like a 90-year-old man.
That's a valid criticism.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not something I prefer. So
I got you.
Anyway, that pretty well sums it up. This is great reading. If you're familiar with the Cuckoos now, or you've seen them on The Gifted, go back and read that new X-Men run. Then read Phoenix Warzone. I'll put it on the website for you. It's really good.
Yeah. All of which is available on Marvel Unlimited.
Absolutely.
Well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6 months behind @gmail.com.
You can check out the website at www.6monthsbehind.com, where all the notes for this podcast and the previous What's Next podcast are there.
And please check out our other show, 6 Months Behind. That's the show where we review and rate and discuss all of the comic books that come out on a weekly basis in Marvel Unlimited. If you're trying to keep up with current Marvel continuity, that's the best way to do so. Pat, got anything else before we go?
Nope.
All right. Well, this has been What's Next, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.